AI coding apps can have a brutal learning curve. I know this because I see some stuff in my comments and on X where people are talking about how hard things are in the terminal, and I'm determined to make the terminal not scary for people. And with tools like Codex CLI, Claude Code, and Gemini 3, which I'm going to show you today, the documentation's scattered all over the place, and it's written like, coding documentation. It's not written in a way that explains things to you, like why you might want to use things. So I wanted to compare all three of these tools and actually see what the span of features was. And when I started doing this, I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and make my own cheat sheet where I have everything right in front of me for each one of these tools. And I thought I might as well share that with you. So that's what I've made. Let me show you what I'm talking about and how you can get it. So if you go to testandprod.co, I've put a cheat sheet section here right above where you can get the conductor framework if you want that. It's free, so you might as well download it. And you just click on cheat sheets and go to Gemini CLI, and it will pull up this Gemini CLI, the master functional guide. And what I've tried to do here is just lay out, the 90% of the things that you'll actually use and show where all that stuff is. Because even though I use a tool like this every day and Claude Code and Codex, when you start looking at the documentation, I realized that I didn't know everything. Surprise. But there's a lot of stuff out there that will really help you develop stuff, and I'm going to show it all to you here. So the first thing is right off the bat when you're getting connected with Gemini CLI, if you just go into your terminal and you type in Gemini, that will start things up through the normal authentication, and it'll take you to Google and have you log in through your Google email account. But there's another way you can do it, which is using the API key. And depending on which one you use, it actually gives you different functions right out of the box. So if you just use Gemini right at the beginning and type in Gemini, this is the simplest way to do it. And it'll take you through the whole login process, of course, after you've installed Gemini CLI. But if you use the API key, you actually get context caching. So you don't have that for the other version yet, but essentially context caching it is just like it will save your files and things that you've already uploaded and discussed in a cache to where it doesn't have to go through and read everything from scratch again. So that's a little perk for using the API to connect with Gemini CLI. And the next one I put in here is just a core loop. Again, because people get scared of the terminal, and I don't think they understand how easy it is to actually start using the terminal with tools like Gemini and Claude and Codex, but you're literally just having a conversation with it the way you would when you're chatting to ChatGPT or Gemini in the web app. But just think of this as like an ask, clarify, act, review loop. So you're just going to ask, you can ask Gemini any questions you want here, like what type of UI changes should I make next? Okay. And it's going to give you some answer, and then you will maybe not like the answer immediately. So you just need to clarify things with it. And when you're happy with its answer, that's when you tell it to take an action, and then you review what it did and just start asking questions all over again. One thing I will say with Gemini CLI in particular is it's a very eager model. So it's really helpful to put stuff in there if you don't want it to build stuff yet, just to simply say, don't build anything yet, just answer my question. That way it won't run off and make assumptions and start building things. But you don't have to be scared of the terminal. You literally type into it just like I just did. So keep watching if you're scared of the terminal, and I promise you won't be after you're done with this. So the at command is another one that will be really helpful for you. The at command is so you can point Gemini to specific files. This will save you tons of tokens. If you want it to just look at something in a specific file, you can narrow its focus by just saying at. So you would come in here and type at, and then it will read any file in your system. And when you start typing, it'll pull up like readme. Or if you pull up, let's say the package.json file, it'll give you anything that has the word package in it. And you can just point Gemini exactly where you want it. This will save you tokens, because if you don't do this, it might just read through a bunch of unnecessary files and waste a lot of your time and money. Okay, so those are some pretty basic ones, but let's move on to something that's cooler. So slash commands. These slash commands, you just press forward slash and you have all these tools at your disposal, and you can actually make custom ones of these, which I will show you here in a second. But some of the most helpful ones I find are switching back and forth between the models. So depending on what you want, you can do forward slash model, and it will let you switch between Gemini 3, Gemini 2.5, or select one model manually. I usually keep this on Gemini 3, which is the newest one, and it will automatically switch you back and forth if it's on auto between Gemini 3 Pro for more complicated tasks and Gemini 3 Flash, which is faster and cheaper for simpler tasks. And I found that Gemini CLI actually is really good at this and punches way above its weight. I don't know why people don't talk more about Gemini CLI. I really like it as like a workhorse. Some other really helpful ones are compress. So if you've had a long conversation and you don't want your whole context window to be used up, you can just put in compress, and it will take all of your chat history so far and it will compress it into a smaller package so you free up more room in your context window that you're using. It's essentially like compressing all the memory so you have more room to think with the model. Think of it that way. It just takes a second. It'll compress the history, and then when you come back, you'll have a lot more free open space. You can chain your sessions together longer this if you're working on something that takes a little bit of time. Let's see here. Init is another really good one. So like after you have your initial project files, like I set up this project, it was just my basic website for testinprod.co, and it took me, maybe an hour to make. But now I'm at the point to where people are actually visiting testinprod.co, and I need to turn it into a real app. So I'm in here messing with it. And after I upload some more files and packages and update my tech stack, I will run init, and it will update this Gemini.md file, which will essentially go through and read everything about my project and make like a little cheat sheet for the LLM to use, which will save me from having to explain where everything is and why different things are in my tech stack. So make sure as soon as you have your files uploaded for whatever tech stack you're using, you just do /init, and it will make this file for you. It's extremely helpful. Another great one to use that Gemini's not so great at, but it's just because people don't know where it's at, is if you want to see your usage, you can do /stats, and it will show you how much of each model you've used. And if you want to focus in on a session or a model, you can do stats model, and it'll bring up stats about your model, how much you've used it. And I think it even has another one, which is stats session, and this will tell you about your session usage. So if you want to know how you're using Gemini CLI and you want to see how many tokens you've used, use the stats and it'll bring them up for you. So just to touch on these a little more, if you want to look at like your bill or what's happening, just go to /stats. If you want to switch your engine or the model you're running, do /model. Okay, moving on to the brain or the context and memory. We spoke a little bit about the gemini.md file, but there's actually two of these that you can create. One is a global memory and one is a project memory. So the global memory for Gemini is it's storing things that you always want Gemini to remember. And this will store all of your rules, like how you maybe want to have Gemini help you with your Git commands and things like that. But if you have a project memory, this is much more specific for the rules that you want it to follow for your specific project. So you'll want to make rules in here that are specific to your tech stack that you're using, because you'll use different technologies across different projects that you're using. So you can put those types of rules in your project memory. And this will explain how these two work right here. Another really cool one is if you want to manage your memory on the fly. Oh, by the way, to get out of anything that you've done, you can always just click escape and it'll bring you back to the chat box. But you do /memory, and you can see your current memories in your MD file. And then if you're forgetful like me, you can do memory add, and it'll let you add a memory in here. The only thing that you need to watch out for when you're doing this is sometimes when you add memories, all AI models will kind of over-index on them or over-consider, and it'll start dragging stuff in for your memory when you don't want it to. So you can literally just go back to your MD file and erase your old memories, and it'll never bring it up again. Okay, so the safety net, or how not to break things. I know this scares a lot of people, especially if you're brand new to coding in the terminal. You think you will break stuff. Chances are you won't unless you use YOLO mode. But Gemini has 3 different approval modes you can think of these as. So the first one is safe mode. And if you're in safe mode, which it defaults to, Gemini will ask your permission before it changes anything. The problem with this is if you want it to just let Gemini run, you have to babysit it a lot and keep on giving it approvals to change things. The next thing is, or the next level is 2, and this is where I'm at most of the time. And this is where Gemini will go and read and write and change different files. But if you want it to actually make a command or push something to GitHub, it will ask your permission. I find this is a really nice balance between letting Gemini run wild and then just babysitting it enough. But if you want to go crazy, you use YOLO mode. And in YOLO mode, you can get to it by pressing Control Y. And you can just see I switched over to YOLO mode. And in YOLO mode, it has permission to do anything it wants, which can be scary. I don't suggest you go into this. But to switch between the different modes, you just do Shift and Tab, and now you're in level 2, accepting edits, where now Gemini can edit things. And if you want to go to full protection, safe mode, level 1, you just press Shift Tab again. I don't think Google does a great job of explaining what this is or making that very discoverable, but now you know. You just press Shift Tab and you can switch back and forth between the 2 different modes. Okay, moving on to checkpointing. So checkpointing is actually nice. I don't have it turned on, but one of the things that you can do with checkpointing is you can go into your settings and turn checkpointing on by enabling it and setting it to true, and it will take little snapshots of what you're doing so you can always come back to it. And you can always come back in and click resume and get back to where you were. But if you're using GitHub and Git like you should be, you don't really need this because you're kind of making your own snapshots of your code that lives up in the cloud and on your local machine. But if you want to turn checkpointing on, you can, and this will explain how to do it. Sandboxing is not turned on by default, but sandboxing, you can go into your terminal and just type in Gemini/S, and it will turn on the sandbox. And the sandbox is just kind of like a safety bubble that it puts your, that it allows Gemini CLI to run in, so it won't screw anything up. I think it just spins up a Docker container and puts everything inside of that. And you can activate it by running this command in your terminal. And again, with your session and conversation histories, you just type /resume is the quickest way to do this, and it will pull up all of your previous conversations and let you switch back into one. If you're in your terminal, you can have them list it by running this command, list your sessions, and then you can actually pick which one you want it to resume, and you can pick right back up where you were at from your terminal. And then the toolbox, you don't have to do anything to activate these tools. These are just the tools that Gemini has right out of the box, and I'm not sure if everybody knows about these, but you can list all of your directories. Gemini will do this for you. It can read and write files for you. It can replace stuff, so it has all the, like CRUD operations, create, update, and delete. It can find files by using its glob tool. It can search files content. It can run shell commands, so it can install things for you or run git commands, which is really helpful. It also has web search and web fetch. So it will go out and do searches for you on Google, which is extremely helpful. And if you give it a URL, it will go out and find those specific URLs. It's also smart enough to save your memory. So if you tell it to remember something, it will put that in your memory file that we just spoke about a second ago. And it also has write to-dos. Now, if you are using something like the Conductor framework, you don't have to worry about this as much because you're writing your own plans and your own to-do lists. But Gemini will write its own to-do list and follow plans, and you can see it executing as it goes down that to-do list. And it just knows to do that automatically. You don't have to explicitly invoke that. So these are all the tools that come packaged in Gemini right out of the box. So moving on to more of the power user type tools, don't be scared of these, but you can do custom commands. So think of a custom command as just a simple prompt, but it'll be a saved prompt. So if, for example, you have a certain way you want it to make GitHub commit comments, instead of having to type those instructions out or going and copying and pasting commands from somewhere else that like we used to have to do, you can just save these as your own / commands. And you can see some of these are saved here. And like a useful one, for example, is if I do explain, this is one that I've created myself. And I can go in here and I can say, explain any file to me like I'm a 5th grader in plain English. And I've just saved a command for me. So if I want to say, for example, explain the package.json file, I can just do explain and have it explain this package to me. And there you have it. So when you do explain, it'll come back and it'll explain how things work, key concepts. It's got all the prompts in there from the way I told Gemini to explain things to me. And it saves me a ton of time, especially since I'm not the best coder in the world. But if there's something I don't understand, I can click explain and it makes it very simple for me to understand it. So if you're new, make sure you write an explain command, and maybe I'll include some of my custom commands in this paper. Okay, next is, I don't think we need to worry about the fill in the blank and the dynamic commands. These are where you can pass in arguments. And if you want to know how to do this, you can come in here and read this, but I think it's beyond the scope of this video. Okay, the next one is extending it in the intelligence of the system through MCPs and extensions. So let's first talk about MCPs. You've probably heard of these a lot. It's model context protocols. And these are essentially like universal plugs that gives Gemini access to other tools. For example, I have one that I use all the time called Context 7, which is just all up-to-date documentation. And the great thing about this is I never have to explain or track down documentation for Gemini because I've set up an MCP tool for Gemini to use. So now Gemini knows that it has access to all the most up-to-date information, and it will automatically know this and go out and read Context 7 whenever it needs to, or whenever I tell it to go find documentation. And the installation instructions are pretty simple, and I have them listed out here. So the next one is extensions. So a lot of people don't know this about Gemini, but it has a big extension library. And extensions are just like little apps that other people make that you can bring into your application. So one that I use is Critical Think. So you can install them literally by just copying and pasting this, but Critical Think is a custom command that enables healthy skepticism into the dialogue process. So AIs can get pretty confident in what they're doing, and they can overlook things. They can hallucinate to you, in some cases just flat out lie to you. If you have this package installed, you can just do / critical think, and it will run this after it does a command, and it will go back and think critically and kind of scrutinize its last instruction or the last bit of feedback it gave back to you, which is really nice. Another thing you can do is take the critical think stuff and say, take a look at this output. I just, had this thing think critically about it and reconsider the instructions you just told me or the recommendation you just made to me. So don't forget about this. It's just GeminiCLI.com / extensions. And there's all sorts of stuff in here you can use. So it's a little resource to go browse through if you want to. And next, we've done configuration. That's essentially just the settings. I don't know if I showed this already, but you just do / settings, and you can toggle through all of your settings. And it's got a ton. You can change your theme. You can change anything you want in Gemini CLI just by doing / settings. The one thing I will say is be careful, is because when you press return on this, it will change the value from true to false. And I've definitely been here just playing around and accidentally changed some values that I didn't mean to. So be careful. But to get to any of your settings and change them, just do / settings and you can change anything you want. And the last one we'll go over is the system prompt. So you can change the personality of Gemini. By default, it comes out and Gemini will go through and it'll have a very helpful personality, but let's say you want it to be more direct. You can override this by creating a new system.md file, which this explains how to do it right here. And you can go just put in a personality that you want or instructions for Gemini to follow, and it will override the system prompt that it already has. So you can just look up system prompts for Gemini, or for AI coding assistance, and get some ideas to make your own system prompt to allow Gemini to interact with you just the way you want. But anyway, if you want, go out and check out this page. I spent a good amount of time making this, and I will keep it as up to date as I can, but this will explain how to do a lot of things that you might not have known about in a pretty straightforward way. Just go to testandprod.co and it's all yours. Thanks for watching.